So we've done a few episodes now, and we haven't scared everybody away. In fact, more and more people seem to be listening to the podcast. Thanks for everybody who's tuning in every 2 weeks to hear about some wonderful running book. Of course, we think they're wonderful. That's what we love. So we thought we might try something different. Hey, this time, Liz?
Yeah, we thought because we actually realized on a run that we've learned quite a few things from all these books we've been reading, and we thought we would reflect on that a little bit.
Okay, so we're going to go through our first 10 books, so first 10 episodes, and just reflect a little bit and see what we've learned. Because talking as we've sort of gone through, we seem to pick things up and then we go back to them later. So it might be good to just go back and just touch base on each book and see what our listeners think of that. Maybe it'll inspire them to go back and listen to our previous episodes if they haven't, or buy the previous books if they haven't.
And that would be a good outcome, I think.
Okay, so let's give it a try.
Okay, so hi and welcome to the Running Book Reviews podcast, where we review running books to help you decide if you would like to read the book for yourself. We also hope that listening to us chat about running can help keep you motivated about your own running or maybe inspire you to try something new. My name is Elizabeth Macrusa, and my co-host Alan Miller are going to do something a little different today because we don't have an author with us and we are not reviewing one specific book. We've realized that we've actually learned a lot of things from the book reviews we've done and the books we've read, and we wanted to share that with you a little bit. So we chose our the first 10 books that we reviewed on the podcast. So starting with the Hanson's Marathon Method by Luke Humphrey. So I guess I'll start by saying that this book has had a huge effect on my training. I completely tried the whole plan, the marathon plan, but more specifically, I guess the other little small things that I learned were the carb calculator. So the number of grams of carbs that you need to ingest during the marathon itself. I actually learned that I was not even in the ballpark that I should have been in. And during my last marathon, I had more gel. So that was one thing I learned.
I think that's one of the things I haven't learned yet, because I often
Oh,
bonk towards the end of a marathon. I'm probably underfed.
Alan,
Um,
it's a game changer. Game
um,
changer.
Calculations are boring, so I can never do them. But you're good at that technical stuff, so I'll get you to calculate
I
how many gels I should be taking next time we do a marathon.
Yes, I'll calculate it for you. I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference. And also front loading the ingestion of the gels, because in the book they explained how your digestive system is more ready to absorb calories when the blood's not being diverted to your legs towards the end of the marathon. And most people know how you feel kind of a little bit nauseous kind of at the end, and it's hard to get a gel down. So what I did was I actually took one of the gels before even starting the marathon, right at the start line. And then I was taking them a lot earlier than I used to take them, and more frequently because I had to eat more of them.
So that's a good. I guess that's a good take home. The thing that I picked up off for Hansen was probably just trying to do a program that involved 6 days of running. I've got a bit more time available to me, so rather than do, I was doing 5 days maximum with a big long weekend effort, and to tone that down a bit, go for 6 days and build a stronger base. And I feel that I don't know that it's going to be a game changer for me, but I feel that I have a stronger base now to launch my next, whatever it is you're going to do next. I feel a little bit stronger and more capable of sustaining that. And for anybody who's struggling with their marathon training program and don't feel it's working for them, I would say the Hansen Marathon Method, certainly give it a try. It's worth a go. The idea is tone down your your crazy long run, just proving to yourself that you can do the distance. Forget that. Build your base by doing some strong tempo runs and a 6-day program.
And actually, your mileage was actually less than you were doing longer long runs before. Now you're doing shorter long runs on the weekend, but your overall mileage, if you look at your week, is like, at least,
More.
at least 20 kilometers more.
And I see people are still, even though that was our very first podcast, people are still listening to that podcast because the Hanson Marathon Method is a perennial thing, and we see it ticking up every week. Somebody's listening to it, so good on ya, as the Aussies say. Next one is Kixology. So, what did you get out of Kixology, other than just looking at all those running shoes and all those different running shoes? And I guess it was a little bit of a history trip for me as well, because I remember further back than you.
Yeah, I liked learning about the history because I have to say that until recently, I didn't know anything about shoes. And I thought I knew about shoes, but when I read Kixology, I realized that I don't know as much about shoes as Brian Metzler, that's for sure.
Well, there are not many people who do. I think the many things we could talk about, but if I was to just pick one thing, I would say, and you've heard me say this a lot, I would say the discovery of PBA or PBACs as a midsole material. You've seen me over the last 3 months trip out on this, and basically my view, and this is just my own view, but my view is that that material is the secret in the original Nike shoes, whereas everybody was talking about carbon plates, but in fact the big benefit comes from the new midsole material, which is PBACs. And not everybody in the shoe manufacturing world picked up on that. One company that did was Saucony, and we see with Saucony's Endorphin series, they may have on their hands a new game changer based upon this. And I've followed it now. Every shoe that comes out that has PBACs midsole, and I love shoes with that. I've gotten a little bit off Nike and Nike shoes, and you'll understand why when we eventually get around to reviewing Win at All Costs, which is coming up on our agenda. But to have an alternate choice with PBACs, which is the Saucony Endorphin Pros that I have, I would say they're the best pair of shoes I've ever owned.
Yeah.
But thank you, Brian, for pointing me in that direction.
So I guess I picked out one little thing. I kind of figured you were going to comment about the PBACs, so I tried to think of something different. So I guess it's the fact that shoes will get old even if you don't wear them. So I used to do this kind of thing where I would find the old version on sale because the new version was out, and I would buy it because I run with a different shoe in the winter. To I always choose something with Gore-Tex that I don't really necessarily like to run with because they tend to be heavy shoes. But for the winter, it's fantastic because it keeps your feet warm and dry. So what I'll do is I will find them on sale, and it'll be like last year's version, which is not so bad, or the version before, and it'll be much cheaper because Gore-Tex shoes tend to be on the expensive side. And then I'll keep them for next winter or whenever I need a new pair. And the fact that they get old even if you don't wear them, now I'm a lot more careful. I'm like, oh, they're on sale, but what version are they at, and what version is this? And so I'm like more picky, and I'll pay more for my shoes because there's no point in buying a brand new shoe that you take out of the box and it feels like a rock because your midsole has degraded.
It also gives you a good excuse to buy new shoes. You go, oh, those are old now. They've been in the box for weeks. Almost 3 weeks. I'll need a new pair.
As if I need an excuse for that.
Okay, so that brings us on to Running Rewired. Jay DeSherry, what's your take-home message from Running Rewired, Liz?
So I started to pay more attention to stability, more precisely, I guess, like foot stability, and those exercises that a lot of us think are kind of useless, or that I used to sort of skip over those. So we used to have this plan at Concordia for weight training, and you would have the traditional exercises with like dumbbells or something like that, and then we would have this one. I remember it was just an exercise where you were sort of on one knee with one leg out in front, and you were sort of moving back and forth to stretch your hip flexors. And I really never
Got it. Yeah.
thought much about it. I was kind of like, well, this is sort of useless. I'm just going to skip this one to save time. That was always the exercise I would skip if I didn't have enough time. Most of the time I did them all, but like if I was crunched, that's what I would skip. And I realized with Jay Dicharry's book how actually part of the benefits of strength training are not just the muscular benefits, but it's also the neurological benefits from rewiring sort of how you use your muscles and how you move your body. So that was the one thing that I learned from that one.
I guess my take-home messages would echo that a bit. I think I went from, look, I don't have time for all this stuff. I just want to run, to, hey, I must make time for this stuff. It's a significant game changer and can take your running forward. And I feel it has done this year. That's where my using some of the exercises from Jay Dicharry's book, where my running started to improve again. And I've sort of taken it from there with various other things building onto that. I can now, and I'm doing it now as we talk, I can now do really good foot yoga, which I didn't even know what it was. And when I tried to do it first, when I read the book, I thought, oh, my feet don't do that. They're just sitting there. My toes were just sitting there doing nothing. And now I can do the movements exactly as Jay sort of does them, because I just practiced every day. And that's a small thing, but it's reprogramming your nerves, your neural pathways, and it builds from there into ankle stability, and all of your running sits on your ankles. For the people who are listening to me talking about foot yoga, who don't know what on earth I'm talking about, go and read the book, I guess, would be. But it's a small exercise, and Jay gives a lot of exercises to diagnose what might and might not be useful to you to develop your strength or your stability. And you and I, sorry,
think,
just before you get on to toe yoga, you and I have also started doing some exercises from Jay's book before we run sometimes.
Yep.
So we've actually built that into our program.
Yeah, I was just going to say about the toe yoga that it's on YouTube. I think Jay Dicharry.
Oh, for sure.
He's got a couple videos, not very many, but I think that's a good place where people can go at least see what we're talking about. I think it's also worth mentioning sort of how to place the workouts into an overall plan, because he does talk about that a little bit as well. And he says about the power exercises. So some of the like, he's got several plans, and he's got some that are more for like power development, and the fact that those plans are not usually for year round. You should do them strategically in like the 6-week period building up to your goal race, and not the whole year. That was interesting.
Okay, a more difficult one for you. That was an easy book for you to give.
That was easy.
Feedback. More difficult one for you to give feedback on probably would be Runner by Lizzie Hawker. Story of Lizzie Hawker's running career and her childhood to some extent.
Yeah, that's why you're gonna. That's why you're gonna go first on that one, because.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, I think the Lizzie Hawker book is very much a story told by Lizzie about her approach. And I think what I get from that is more of an inspiration. So just watching her attitude, her approach to things, how humble she is, how grateful she is, how thoughtful she is, how accepting. She never really gets big-headed about winning things. She's always looking for a challenge. And she somehow gets over all of the challenges and problems that she has. And she has massive series of injuries. So I think for me, the whole thing was a book as a whole and a motivational, inspirational. I mean, I just found the tone of Lizzie, once I'd read the book, like, she became one of my heroes because of her character. and that's so inspiring as a runner. Apart from the fact she also has one big chapter where she's in the Himalayas. She loves the Himalayas. And 2 years ago, I spent a few weeks in the Himalayas doing one of her events and also doing some other hiking and running. So it was just a trip down memory lane of my time in the Himalayas. So if you put those two things together, I found this book to be incredible in terms of the effect it had on me. But that's a very personal thing, I think.
Hmm.
You would have to listen to our podcast and see if it's for you.
Yes, because, well, I mean, it was a good book. I can't say that there's any books about running that I don't like, because I like running and I like books. So it's just that because it's very specific, like she does a lot of that Himalaya, like she runs from Kathmandu to Everest Base Camp, and she talks a lot about all those little villages that she runs through. And for me, it was just like there's no recognition in any of the names, like in my brain. So sometimes it was a little bit the scenario where my eyes would glaze over. Then
Yeah.
I had to reread part of the page, like part of the last page, to make sure I didn't miss something. But there were a few interesting things that I found out. Like, I never knew that there was such a thing as a 24-hour race where people just run around a track for 24 hours and it's whoever gets the furthest that wins. I didn't know that
Yeah.
existed.
And we discovered that in her book, and then we discovered it again a bit later on, didn't we? When we were
Hmm.
talking to her Darren and Finn.
We did. And then also that there is a world championship for this event. So I didn't know it even existed, but there's a world championship for this event. And Lizzie Hawker was actually on the team for Great Britain, I think. Yeah, something.
Yeah, and she
She
has,
was.
I think she set a world record at the time.
Yeah, so yeah, this was a whole section of running that I was completely oblivious to. So I was happy to learn something new.
Absolutely crazy. You won't catch me running around the track for 24 hours.
Yeah, or
That's for
maybe
sure.
I would, take like a 4-hour nap in there somewhere, because once it gets dark, it's sleeping time.
I think I would probably get a right hip problem. I would have to run like one lap. I was running for lots and lots of hours. I have to run one lap clockwise and one lap counterclockwise to even out the wear. Okay, so if that was one of my heroes, the next book was one of your heroes, if not the hero of yours, Strong by Kara Goucher.
Yeah, so I love Kara Goucher, and in her book, so her book was about confidence and all the techniques you can use to gain confidence and to be more confident in your running, and I guess in the rest of your life too. So one of the things that I learned were that lucky socks are real, and there's a name for it. It's called enclothed cognition. So
Yes.
I didn't know that it was like a real thing. I figured it was all in my head, but it seems like elites use this. When you go to a race and you have a routine where you wear like your team singlet and your lucky socks. I had these lucky socks for a while, and you can hear about that in the episode we did.
And you just feel fast.
And you just feel fast. And also the confidence journaling that I'm not very good at executing, but that she taught me about. You're way ahead of me on that one.
Yeah, I think the things that I learned was, from a confidence journal point of view, even the best runners have sort of imposter syndrome and difficulty with their mentality around their run not going well or things not working out how it's supposed to be. And that even though it sounds a bit, I don't know, soft, making a confidence journal doesn't cost you really anything. I've been doing it since we did the book, all up until it's current up until yesterday. But it just has
Wow.
things. It just has things in it like hill training was tough, got soaked, but I'm getting stronger every time I climb these hills. Just to encourage you to sort of keep going. And it's good to look back on those things. And it's just one more way you can keep your mental focus and not let the process get you down, because loving the process is part of the deal.
Which brings us to the next book.
Yeah, that was a deliberate segue for The Happy Runner by David and Megan Roche.
Yeah, so I guess in this one, I learned about the importance of being happy for your performance. And yeah, it was because David and Megan, they gave a bunch of examples of runners that are, top names that before they kind of had their breakthroughs, they were sort of unhappy for different reasons, and they stopped caring about performance and just became happier with the process, and their performance improved, and sometimes it improved quicker and more than they expected. That's what I got out of that book.
The big take-home message for me, and it's clear if you listen to our podcast, because at some stage I went, wow, aha, this is all the angels are singing, and this is a sort of revelation for me, was the little discussion on speed before strength. So you go, well, this is counterintuitive. Unless you've done lots and lots of work, you can't get fast. But in fact, what David and Megan are saying is, no, no, no. When you're doing your easy run, you need to learn to be fast by doing a little bit, just doing little pickups and teaching your body to be efficient with its speed. So do the strides at the end of your easy run. Don't do mostly easy runs, but just do a little tiny bit of speed. And then you find when you come to your harder runs and you've got to do it for longer, that's you're more efficient with it, and it delivers better results. And not only did it for me did it deliver better results, but incredible improvements. I think I shocked quite a lot of people in the club. I should be in decline now, and I've been getting faster and faster. So this was for me. This was a tiny sort of thing, and I thought, oh no, it doesn't seem right. And then when I thought about it and tried it, it works. So, and in terms of loving the process, you couldn't get a better book to read at this point when there's no races. Because if you're running now, purely grinding out a training program to achieve, I don't know, some sort of result in a race, well, there aren't many races around.
Nope.
So you should really get reoriented to loving the process. One, you'll be much happier now when there aren't many races around. Two, when the races come around, you're going to be such a better performer. And we see with a lot of the world record attempts and fastest known time attempts, people are in fact embracing their process and certainly producing fantastic results. So that's Happy Runner.
So the next one is this was my inspirational book, actually, Running the Dream by Matt Fitzgerald. So the one thing I got out of this book was really, you never know where your limits are. Like, you don't know when your marathon will be your fastest one ever. So yeah, you just have to follow the plan and hope for the best. I love to hear about his experience with the Hoka team. So the NAS Elite teams. Yeah, it inspired me to do a lot of the extras, but do them better. Like, not just the running, but also the the core and the strength training and all that. But I was doing some of that before, but now I really I focus more while I'm doing it. It's not just like running through, like getting through the exercises. It's more intentional.
I think the take-home message that I got was the pros are right, and Matt actually told us that, didn't he?
He did.
These guys know what they're doing. They absolutely know what they're doing. So the pros are right. What they're doing is right, but that figures. They're pros, so why wouldn't they be doing the right thing? But I think the real take-home message is, even though they're pros, you can learn at your level how they're doing what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing, what their motivation is around what they're doing, and do not exactly what they're doing, but something at your level that mimics their approach, and that you can sort of copy their basic approach without having the ability to run at their speed or sustain their training or have access to a sports psychologist every time you need one. Although I'm here for you. I'm not a sports psychologist, by the way. That's a great revelation. Apart from the fact it was just huge amount of fun to talk with Matt. I think Matt was the first author we ever spoke with, and out of the
He
books.
was. Yeah, we went big.
Yeah, and it was just so much fun to chat with him. He's such a nice guy. And I found Running the Dream to be one of the easiest books to read.
Yep.
It was so easy to read. Probably that, and maybe it's just the style of book that I like, but probably that and Rise of the Ultra Runners by Darren Finn were the two easiest books.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't read it, go out and read it. It's easy to read.
It is. So the next book, Girls Running by Melody Fairchild and Elizabeth Carey. So this book is meant for young girls, but there was a lot in it that could benefit, young women. It is sort of geared towards women and girls, but boys can read it too because they will know what's going on with their female training partners or daughters or, the women in your life. And I really loved having these two authors on. They were kind of nice to chat with as well. So the one thing that I learned from this book was how performance progression for girls is less linear than for boys. And yeah, I was because I kind of expected when I was a teen and I was running track, I expected my progression to be linear, and I sort of like hit a point where I was kind of plateauing and maybe like the performance was decreasing a little bit, and then I moved on to different things. I kind of quit running there and came back to it later when I was in my early 20s. And having known that back then, maybe I would have stuck it out a little bit more because,
Just figured it was part of the process rather than think, oh, it was the end of the road.
Yep. Rather than just kind of think, oh, well, I'm just not good at this. I'm going to move on to, getting a job and other things that, 16, 17-year-old teenagers end up doing. And the other thing that came out of out of the conversation that we had, but how common the toxic team culture is in university teams. For me, I had never experienced that, and I had just kind of heard about it, a couple times from other people. I didn't know it was such a big issue. And also that most girls who win when they're young don't end up making the Olympic teams. It's sort of like it's not the same girls. So there's a big disconnect there. I didn't realize that until it was brought up in the book.
Yeah, I think it was an eye opener for me being not a girl. So it was an eye opener for me to just realize how much difficulty or challenge there can be either physiologically with the way girls develop or psychologically with things like toxic team culture or boys' attitudes towards girls, not bullying but putting them down and or devaluing them in some way. Being a boy and having developed through a male culture, that was just part of the chat, and didn't really think about it as has a real effect on people and affects their ability to develop within the sport. So counterintuitively, I actually got quite a lot out of the book, reading the book, but also even more so talking with Melody Fairchild and Elizabeth Carey, who are two fabulous people in women's junior athletics. Really quite wonderful. The story, it brought back the story of Nike and the Oregon Project and Mary Kane and the bad treatment she had. So it reinforced that for me that I need to support people in the sport who are right-minded. I think it was after I read this book that I went immediately to Karagauch's website. It's not Karagauch's website, but it's the Clean Sport Collective, and signed the what would you call it?
I think it's a pledge. Or,
yeah, that's it. A
yeah.
pledge. Yeah, I've forgotten the word. Signed the pledge on the Clean Sport Collective to say, I need to be a bit more right-minded about sport. It's a bit of a gesture from me. I mean, I'm not a big company or a professional athlete, but I'm just saying, yeah, I agree with that stuff. And if I have a choice of where I'm going to put my dollars, I'll try and put my dollars with people who are signing that. Let me have a look, see which
Hmm.
companies have signed it. So that was a good social development thing for me. Thank you, Melody Fairchild and Elizabeth Carey, for taking me there. Okay, that brings us to North.
By Scott Jurek.
Yeah.
I guess so. This was kind of a storybook. This one, even though it was another trail book, I found this one a little easier to read than Runner because he was more. I guess it was more focused on the people, the characters. And maybe I started knowing a little bit more about trail running. So like some of the names popped out a little bit more. The one thing I guess I learned that I didn't really know existed was the whole concept of FKT, which is fastest known time. So apparently there's a website and, people can attempt these fastest known times for some meaningful distance, like the Appalachian Trail, which is what Scott Jurek did. So that was kind of an eye opener for me. Other than that, I can also confirm that I have no desire to run the Appalachian Trail. It sounds super dangerous, and like I think my running career is going to be over if I go run there. With all his stories about people getting lost when they're like a couple meters, they step off the trail to go and have a pee in the woods, and they get lost and never find their way back to the trail. So there were a couple of those stories in that book, because apparently people have died on that trail. And yeah, that was enough to be like, no, it's okay. Road is great. If I get lost, I have GPS. Someone will show me direction.
Don't worry, Liz. I won't make you go on your own on the Appalachian Trail. You're still worried about it, having read the book. Like it was a month ago when we read the book. You're still worried about getting lost on the trail.
I am.
And there's quite a section on that in our discussion on the podcast concerning North. I think a couple of things in North, and it was great talking with our buddy Nestor, who actually met Scott Jurek while he was running on the Appalachian Trail. So we got first-hand reports from the experience. I think a couple of things that struck me was, what an incredible athlete Scott Jurek is in terms of one is his physical ability to take on the thing, but his mental ability to respond to a challenge. I think we got a little bit of insight in the next book that we're going to talk about mental ability of ultra runners. But what a just a crazy, fantastic athlete he is. And having said that, also how arrogant he was going into that kind of surprised me, because he wrote the book, but he was honest enough to kind of portray in the book the fact that he went in underprepared, a bit blasé, somewhat arrogant, saying, "Oh, I've done all these things in my history, so another one, I'm ready. I know I don't understand really what I'm doing, but I know how to run for a long time. That's it. It'll all be fine." And he was sort of honest enough to kind of admit that. And I was pleased to see that, he sort of transformed as he was running. And I guess the take home message is stay humble out there, because sooner or later you're going to come across an event that's going to humble you a lot. But yeah, fantastic story.
He's a great person too, because he's at the end, he helps his another trail runner, one of his friends that helped him during his fastest known time attempt, and he helps him the year after to
Carl
basically beat the
to beat
the
his
fastest,
own time.
to beat his own time. So it really shows like he just enjoys the sport, and he's a great athlete, but he also wants to contribute and is happy to be a team player.
True that. Okay, that brings us on to the last book that we're talking about today, The Rise of the Ultra Runners by Darren Ann Finn.
So this book, it was a story about ultra running, and I was happy that I already knew a little bit about ultra running from North and from Runner. because some of it was a bit more familiar, but and also because of you, because you ran the UTMB and the
And because of
Darnan.
and because of yourself, you ran the Transalpkirks 5-day
Yes.
run in the mountains of Revelstoke in
I'm not
British
sure that
Columbia.
that deserves any credit though, because when I hear about the ultra running Adaranan did and my ultra running where I run one stage per day and I get to sleep at night and have food in between, like not at all the same.
It's my kind of ultra running though. I like that.
Yeah, me
You get
too.
to sleep at night and have food, and you don't get eaten by a bear, and you don't meet one,
And you don't hallucinate.
and you don't hallucinate.
It's great.
Yeah.
So the thing that Adaranan talks a lot about, and that he sort of takes us on his own journey of running form, the importance of running form, and that he's always kind of working on it, and how it
Yeah.
impacted, you know, his ability to run farther, because he's kind of injury prone, it sounded like, from the beginning of the book. And he you know, he meets these odd he does these odd things. So one of them was the Feldenkrais method, and
Yes. Anatomy
another
in Motion was another one.
Anatomy in Motion with
Gary
Gary.
Ward.
That's right. And they're a little bit unconventional, because it's just like kind of these gentle movements. So it's not like strength training or drills like we're used to doing. It's different. But yeah, it's like he's always working on his running form, and explains how that's important. And I think that we've become a little bit more
Yes, we
focused on
have.
that too.
We've both done the 30-day challenge from James Dunn. If anyone hasn't heard of James Dunn, look him up on YouTube. He offers a free 30-day challenge for improving your stability and your strength, I guess, as runners. Just practicing a little bit of stuff every day for about 15 minutes and gives you a program. And we both followed that program all the way through, and found surprisingly good benefits. From Adaranan's book, I think what I got really was a good insight, because he was always searching for, why do people do this stuff? Because, as you say, I think what I say in many of the podcasts is, you see people doing these 100-mile ultras, you know, running through the night or 2 nights,
Mm-hmm.
and they look so crushed. they look so sad. You know, they're shuffling along, looking all frowny faced, doubled over, and you know, they've got no energy. And why would you choose to be one of those people? um, and yet, as I developed my trail running, it kind of is, it's trending you there all the time. I think a 50k ultra on a 50k on a single day is kind of where I've drawn the line at this point. I'm okay to go 50k again the next day if I can have a sleep in between.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going 160k through the night through the mountains and getting destroyed. And I'm quite an experienced runner, so why do people do this? And I think Adaranan actually does find some answers to those things. The answer is different for each person, but
Mm-hmm.
and what we see on the outside of the people is not the reason why they do it. They're not arriving for the medal, to be all happy and smiling and get their medal and whatever kudos they get for crossing the finish line. They're looking for something else, I think.
Yeah.
And Adaranan gave us some good insight to that in his book and in the chat that we have with him, which was good. At the same time, because he was doing the UTMB at the end, the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, most prestigious ultra run in Europe, it gave me a chance to relive my experience. I did the OCC, which is kind of the baby run of the UTMB series, which usually occurs the day before the big 100-mile run. I think the OCC is about 50 something kilometers, 56 kilometers or something, which I did a few years ago. So I was able to sort of relive my experience through reading his book. That's always nice. So that was fun to talk to him about that. And I guess that's our first 10 books. How do you feel about it so far?
I very much enjoyed the first 10 books, and I very much enjoyed doing this podcast, I find that like we read the books more kind of intentionally. I take more notes while I'm reading, and I guess that's probably why I get more out of the book too, is because I'm really paying attention when I'm reading, as opposed to kind of just reading it for the story or certain information. Yeah, those first 10 books have been really great.
That's true. I think because we're podcasting them, I've been reading them thinking, well, okay, I need to make a note. And so you retain more. And because you retain more, you apply it where it can be applied. Or you chat about it while you're running, and it makes the run more fun and more inspiring. So there are sort of multiple benefits, I feel, that our running's improving because of it. The feeling of a long training run is more fun because of it. My understanding of the world of running is improving. It's fun to talk to people about books when they've read a book. They say, "Oh, I've read this book. Why don't you talk about this book?" And then that's a fantastic conversation. Maybe we should talk a little bit about what's coming up. So books that are coming up.
That could be a good idea.
I guess. Well, chasing excellence is obviously one that in
But that was
publishing,
number 11, which is why
Yeah.
we're not talking about it right now, because you have to put some kind of a limit.
Yeah. But we're gonna make a podcast on Born to Run, because if you haven't read Born to Run, you need to be told about it. And if you have, you probably need to read it again, because we've just read it for the second time, and we found all sorts of things in it that we didn't.
Yeah,
time.
it was like not even the same book the second time around. I mean, I read it so long ago. I didn't really remember everything. I just basically remembered what it was about. But
hopefully we're going to be talking with Christopher McDougall about that.
Hopefully,
so that's to come. We've got Amanda Brooks coming up in a few weeks with her book Run to the Finish, which is more a book for your everyday runner. So less of the superheroes and more the more populist, middle of the pack runners.
So that should be fun.
That's going to be a lot of fun.
And then we have Win at All Costs, which is a book that's by Matt Hart that's not out yet. It was going to release on the 22nd of September in Canada at least, but now it's been pushed to October.
Yeah.
So that will be
and that's going to touch on Nike and the Salazar Nike Origin project with Salazar and the subsequent ruling on Salazar and what happened within the Nike Oregon project and how Nike dealt with that. So that should be very interesting. Going to be very interested. And we've got a bunch of other things in the works, but they're not confirmed yet. So I suppose we shouldn't talk about them, because it will look really embarrassing when this comes out and then we can't.
Yeah, and then if somebody's really looking forward to that one book and then we can't put it together, that won't work out.
Maybe what we should say is send us an email if you're interested, or if you have some specific comments on a book that we've already covered, or a book that you'd like us to cover. Talk to the author and cover the book in detail. If you'd like us to do that on a specific book, send us an email and let us know why. We're happy to receive your emails. That would be at runningbookraeviews@gmail.com.
Yep. Or you can do it the more traditional way on social media. So you can just send us a message through Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. So on Facebook and Instagram, we're just Running Book Reviews. And then on Twitter, we are reviews_running. So you can leave us a little message there.
And I hope everyone's enjoyed our little summary review. Let us know if you think this is a good idea, or every 10 or so episodes we can do a little summary. So if you don't get time to listen to all the in-depth 1 hour episodes,
1 hour plus,
you can always but the plus is free of charge. So
it's bonus.
All bonus. If you don't get time to listen to it, you can always listen to a summary review like this and then dip in, depending on, that sounds interesting. Just dip into our back catalog.
And thank you for listening to another episode of Running Book Reviews.
See you next time.